Edge AI is redefining how we live. But are we actually creating a truly intelligent home?
Not every product that uses Edge AI needs the highest level of security, but there will be many products that do. Like security camera in your home will need, I would say, the highest level of security possible. But your dryer, you don't care, okay, if it has security or not.
Don't connect stuff to the open internet directly, in your home, as opposed to everybody having a connection to the open internet where they can all be found. Because, you just never know. I would hate for Sam's dryer to be taken over by a botnet and then just kept going and going.
What is the biggest opportunity then for an AI-driven smart home in the near future?
I think it's probably always going to be convenience primarily, whatever it is. And the reality of the connected, the smart home, sadly, for the most part, it's always a retrofit. It's after the fact. It's not like we're seeing lots of homes and apartments being built from the get-go, designed for smart AI type stuff.
You have a security camera, the power goes out. You still want the security camera to work. So you need to depend on Edge AI to make it better. So 5 years ago, these things didn't exist. To me, Edge AI is all about evolution, making things easier in time.
Welcome to The Edge of Tomorrow, the Edge AI debate, our spin-off series on the IoT Podcast. It's brought to you in collaboration with our great friends from the Edge AI Foundation. We're bringing together some of the brightest minds in Edge AI and beyond for high-stakes discussions on the most pressing challenges, opportunities, and emerging trends shaping the future of AI at the edge. This isn't just another AI podcast. Every episode cuts to the core of technology we're building and the path we're on, offering diverse perspectives, hard-hitting analysis, and the kind of conversations that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Edge AI. In this episode, we dive into Edge AI in smart homes. Is it making our homes truly intelligent? Or just creating fragile ecosystems prone to failure? Host Tom White is joined by Sam Geha, EVP of IoT, Wireless and Compute Business at Infineon Technologies, and our good friend Rob Tiffany, Research at IDC. We're going to be exploring security, system failures, and the future of Edge AI in smart homes. Guys, welcome to the show. Edge AI is redefining how we live. But are we actually creating a truly intelligent home? Or is it really just a fragile ecosystem prone to a lot of failures? So this matters because AI is making homes more connected. But again, it's the question, are we truly designing them to be more secure and sustainable? So today we've got two guests that's going to talk this out. We've got Sam Geha from Infineon, who is the EVP in IoT, Compute and Wireless. And we have Rob Tiffany, an old friend of the show, Research Director at IDC and cutting edge tech influencer. Guys, welcome to the show today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, just to provide a little bit of background to everyone then. So, Rob, maybe could you just introduce yourself for a moment and who you are and a little bit about what you do, and then Sam, to do the same, if that's okay.
Sounds good. Yes. So currently I'm a research director at IDC, one of those big three industry analyst firms. I'm focused on kind of private, hybrid, multi-cloud stuff in this role. Background, I did co-invent the Internet of Things with Al Gore back in the early 90s when we released the internet to everybody out of ARPANET. Spent most of my career at Microsoft, and so I guess related to this, spent half my time doing Windows Phone, if you remember the phone with the tiles, and then building Azure IoT, and so that was a lot of fun to build a global IoT platform. Got recruited by Hitachi and to build an industrial IoT digital twin thing there. We called it Lumada. So I was living in Japan a lot in factories, and so that was a lot of fun. And then more recently, before that, I was a VP at Ericsson, one of the folks who makes cellular gear. And so I was going to Sweden. So Japan this way, Sweden that way, flying all over the place and permanently jet lagged. So there you have it.
My name is Sam Geha. I have been at the same company for now 29 years, unlike Rob, 25 at a company called Cypress and 5 in the last, since Infineon bought us. And I used to be the VP of R&D for many, many years. So I worked on new technologies, product developments, product qualifications. And then in the last 10, 12 years, I've been learned how to sell stuff and how to grow a business. And I've been running businesses at Infineon for the last, since 2013. I can't count, 12 years, and super excited to be here. So thank you.
I want to kick off a question if I can, and it'd be great to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So, in general, how has Edge AI changed the definition of actually what a smart home is over the last 5 years?
All right, who do you want to go first, Rob?
All right, yikes! That's a tough question. I could tell it to you if it was a longer time frame back in time, which might seem strange because people are thinking Edge AI only just happened yesterday, right? You know what? When I think of when I thought of what's the North Star in IoT, when I was getting going with that and trying, what do you shoot for when you're building a great, connected product, that kind of thing. And the answer, going way back in time, and it happens to be a smart home product, is the Nest thermostat. Early days when people were kind of, getting going, let's say 2010, 2011, 2012, and IoT started getting hot. The Nest learning thermostat came out, and it was a beautiful design. It was an IoT device. It was connected, but it was also learning. And so it had AI in it. It had machine learning in it to learn your habits and things like that, and could adjust, temperatures and things like that in your house. And so it's funny that we're thinking about 5 years or now for Edge AI, but I feel like Nest really helped kick things off in the smart home and kind of showed the way where people might want to go, in building a smart home product that did use AI. Yeah, most home products don't use AI at all. They're just kind of connected, and they maybe have rudimentary rules engines or stuff like that, if this and that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's my answer. That's not a good answer because it's old, but who knew that we had AI way, way, way back then, So, luckily it was the guy who created the iPod and helped build the iPhone that created Nest. So we got a lot of love there, didn't we?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say AI is evolving in time. To me, smart homes are about how do we make life more convenient for people, right? People are living longer. Technology is evolving. How do you make it convenient? If you start with the Nest, thermostat, and to me, if you come to our home, there's like so many more devices that are getting smarter, and some of them need Edge AI. For example, even in some of the new products we're working on, we're working with companies that say, hey, I want to determine the dryer time, the drying time. You put your load in the dryer, and depending on how wet they are, the size of your load, it will tell you how long your dryer is. I mean, seems like a simple, straightforward thing, but it does need Edge AI for it. Think of other examples where actually some of the homes don't have very good Wi-Fi connection, or you have a security camera and the power goes out. You still want the security camera to work. So you need to depend on Edge AI to make it better. So 5 years ago, some of these things didn't exist, right, yet. And to me, Edge AI is all about evolution, about making things easier in time. So hopefully that gives you a good intro here to get started.
Do you think, Sam, just a question for you on that. So everyone knows the story about the Vegas fish tank, right? Where hackers broke into the security systems through the thermostat. Do you think that there's a risk here that if the pursuit of convenience is a forefront of manufacturers' minds and out there to sell white goods, services, products, etc., that we're just going to forget about that, or we're going to exacerbate the security concerns if convenience is the sole pursuit?
Yeah, so my reaction to that is not every product that uses Edge AI needs the highest level of security, but there will be many products that do, like security camera in your home will need, I would say, the highest level of security possible. But your dryer, you don't care, okay, if it has security or not. Maybe you do just a little bit. But so at Infineon, we actually, my sister business line is the guys that make the credit card, the chips that are in the credit cards and your passports. And so we have a very high level of sophistication when it comes to security. And our latest Edge AI chip has what's called PSA Level 4 Secure. What does that mean? That means you worry about things like, okay, when you're doing a secure boot, secure firmware over-the-air update, you worry about making sure this chip is not hacked. We now have won a new design in a company that, when you're paying for your using your credit card in a taxi, right? Because of our security, offering. So security is important for some of the devices, and it needs to be taken seriously, but maybe not for everything that you do in your smart home. So,
Rob, what do you think about that? Do you think different levels of security depending on the device in the home?
Yeah. I was having, Sam brought up, security cameras, or just a lot of people have cameras in their homes and you see them in buildings, when I was getting started doing IoT at Hitachi, the big news back then was this Mirai botnet thing that went all over the world, and it was infecting cameras. There was this whole notion of all these IoT devices, and I'm not talking about little microcontrollers in industry. I'm talking about just a lot of all consumer stuff. They have this default username and password, and it turns out people don't do what you want them to do. They're not good stewards of security. And so these hackers, anything that was just connected and it was connected to the internet and you could see it from the internet, which is a problem. This botnet just interrogated all these devices and it goes, oh yeah, it's this kind of camera or this kind of router or this kind of whatever. And I know what the default password, I'm going to try it. So it was a brute force attempt. Not very clever, but very effective, right? And so don't connect stuff to the open internet directly, in your home, which probably goes to other topics like edge gateways or things like that, as opposed to everybody having a connection to the open internet where they can all be found. Because you just never know. I would hate for Sam's dryer to be taken over by a botnet and then just kept going and going. And then all his shirts shrink really small, and that would be the negative impact.
Yeah. Now, let me give you guys another example where Edge AI is useful. And let's say you're on a remote site. Let's say you're a paramedic, and not everybody has internet connections everywhere. So one of the customers that we're working with is, believe it or not, it's a simple stethoscope maker, except for the stethoscope is actually is what I call a smart stethoscope. And what it does, it can take the signals. Let's say you got a patient in, I don't know, somewhere in some farm far away from internet land. It allows the paramedic to just put the stethoscope on the heart, and from the signal detection, it uses Edge AI to actually determine if the guy has a murmur or if he has a heart attack or problems. And it is actually being used to save lives. So for me, there will be many applications that I call them are Edge AI applications where you just don't need to connect to the internet. And I give you similar ones. Let's say, these smart cameras to enter your home, right? Where you have facial recognition or voice recognition, right? You want those to work day in and day out. You want them to work whether there's power or not. So those also could use or take advantage of Edge AI. And where you say, okay, I only want, Tom and Rob to be able to drive this big tractor, right? Or, or to enter this home or something like that. And then it loads, the facial recognition for those names at the edge. So those are different applications where it does matter, where Edge AI can be solving a problem without having to connect to the internet.
Do you think consumers are educated enough to ring
No,
fence certain
no.
devices?
You don't even have to finish your question. No.
Yeah.
But that's the risk, isn't it? Right? That's the risk, that everything's just on the open internet. That, I've got a watch guard in the office. I hide the IP for the Sonos, etc., etc. But the average person isn't going to do that. So if you've got a really high level of security on the security camera, and then you haven't on something else, you're still on the network, right? Which is still a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think to me, there's two ways of answering you. You're right. Of course, a consumer is not educated enough. If I use myself as a typical consumer, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Right? So we need to continue to educate. And I would say you need to have what I call fallback mechanism. You need to figure out what to do when the power goes out. What is the fail-safe mechanism, right? So that's at least one aspect of it. And I think there's a lot of teaching to be done there. For sure, this is one of the problems. This is not the only problem, but this is one big problem here that from the user side, we need to educate them. But also for me, from the developer side, many developers are shy to do it. I mean, let's say you're the guy that's inventing, I don't know, a new coffee machine. And okay, you know how to make coffee, you're an expert at it, you know what to mix, etc., right? And you're using this tool that says, hey, make me my latte with whatever, 2 sugars and, I don't know, some milk, etc., right? The question is, if you're the owner of this company, what do you do? How many developers do you need to hire to do this? How do you enable these guys? Do I need to hire an army of software people, or do I just can do it with 1 or 2 that actually can do it? And that's kind of, for me, part of the problem of this whole adoption of AI, and why it's taken longer, why it's hard to do. So, and it's going to take time to educate people. But that's what we're trying to do here, is offer those solutions to the customers, trying to make it easier on them. I call it intuitive software, offer intuitive software, where even someone like me can follow some YouTube video and actually in 10 minutes be able to download the solution and make it work. So
that's a good point. I remember Steve Jobs used to say, start with the customer experience and then work backward to the software development. Unfortunately, lots of software development happens the other way around. And we assume that all the consumers are smart, like developers or something like that, and they end up in a quagmire of stuff. Part of the edge AI thing and connected and power going out, stuff like that is, and kind of when you just think of edge in general, I haven't done as much stuff in smart homes, but I have done stuff in smart buildings, and some of them are multifamily, but a lot of them are like skyscrapers. But there is that notion that you've got to keep working even if the internet goes down. And that was kind of part of the edge thing. The edge deal was part of, I need to be close to the source of data and do stuff before going way out to the cloud somewhere. But there's also this notion in a home, in a skyscraper, in a multifamily condominium or apartments, it needs to keep on working. And so back to the point, Sam was talking about, facial recognition of me and of Tom when I come to his house. If everything goes down, it still needs to work. And so that computer vision AI needs to be local, and it needs to already be trained and know what we look like and still work without a connection to the internet. That's kind of a big thing. Just survivability, just keeping it trucking, right? Keeping it going. It's such a big deal.
Yeah. And where you need that secure boot in, because meaning this is where hackers can hack, right? When, let's say, power goes out, you're rebooting, and that's when you have a chance to hack into the device. So we have to protect against that. And like I said, in that case, you care because you only want Rob and Tom to be able to enter that building, right? So, and not somebody else. So that's where it matters, and security matters. Okay.
Secure boot. He's giving me flashbacks of being in the smartphone business with Windows Phone and it's describing to customers when that phone is booting up and the steps it's going through. Actually, we got a lot of love and a lot of stuff from the smartphone revolution that helped IoT and other things. The demand for really small electronics and things and for smartphones made it easier to build all kinds of other devices that we would end up doing in the IoT space.
would you say, I mean, it's a really interesting topic, right, about safeguards. Would you say that there's enough safeguards in place? And what if the safeguards break, right? At what point do you stop putting safeguards in place? Because I think the whole point that you still want it to work if the internet fails, right? At what level do you stop with the safeguards?
Yeah. Well, and also, since the topic is also on edge AI and a safeguard, I'm still really focused on Sam's dryer. And so, one of those, I don't want to call it a simple thing, but a lot of stuff we would do in machine learning, is anomaly detection. And so your smart technology, edge AI stuff on Sam's dryer should know that it's anomalous if his dryer is going on 24 hours a day or something like that. Because, when we have anything like some kind of machine learning and it's learning patterns, right? And it knows, hey, this is what's normal at Sam's house for drying clothes. Gosh, I don't know. It seems like he's drying clothes all the time now. Maybe that's an anomaly. Maybe that's a problem that you start a red flag. And then to your point, Tom, is that when you shut it down and just say, I can't do my job properly, maybe I should just shut it down. I don't know. It's a good question. Or are there fallback layers that you can go to?
Yeah. So I totally agree. There needs to be a manual button, right? The red button where you stop it. But I think the issue here is different. With Edge AI, you're not really training the models. The models are being trained in the cloud, right? Because models are big. They require a lot of memory, a lot of data. But you're using the models, and what we're finding is what people value is the models themselves, because that's what costs a lot of money to train the dryer, right? I don't know. We're working on something else. Okay. I'm working with a manufacturer on air conditioning units, and he's like, look, our air conditioners come out of the factory perfect. They don't make any noise. But when they get installed in homes, okay, there's a loose screw, they're tilted. I need to be able to optimize the frequency at the edge. I mean, in the field. So you have to feed it or pre-feed it lots of data and train the models. And now there's a big value for these models. And that's what people... Let's say you're paying $2 or $3 for the chip, but you spend $2 million making the models, right? And so people want to protect those models because they're like yours. Or same thing for the coffee guy. Okay, maybe there's only 500 words you could use to make a coffee in times 100 languages or whatever, but you've spent a lot of money to train your coffee machine to, on the models, and that's what people are valuing. So that's what they're trying to protect in some ways. Right? Hey, I don't want you to have access to everything I spend to optimize, because otherwise there'll be a competitor guy and he can download the same model and he can make a competitor coffee machine. So that's what we're finding people are valuing. So and that was what started it for us to really increase security significantly. That and smart and I call it secure cameras, and were the original reasons. And obviously facial recognition as it gets more, as it evolves more and becomes cheaper. So
it's a really interesting point. So we spoke earlier about consumers not really knowing about how to connect devices securely to the internet, ring fencing, etc. I think one thing they are probably aware of ever increasingly is privacy, right? And having devices in their homes that listen to everything. Do you think that with Edge AI and the emergence and proliferation of Edge AI based devices and applications that haven't had such a reliance on the cloud, that actually might be a contributing factor to the success from an adoption point of view, that not everything is constantly being monitored and uploaded and stored and interpreted and sent back in terms of ads, right? Do you think that's a factor? And do you see that within your business, Sam?
That's a great point, Tom. I love it. And I believe in it big time. I can even give you a live example. My son works for Tesla, and when he's driving a Tesla, he's like, don't say anything bad or anything related to it because somebody is listening and you don't think about these things. And if you're in your home, somebody's listening, or your iPhone, somebody's listening, right? And trying to figure out what you like and what you're ordering. And so, yeah, I think that's a big deal. And I think at some point, Edge AI will really only continue to evolve with these things in mind. So,
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. People are pretty paranoid. People already believe that their phone's listening to them all the time, right? We have a conversation about some topic, and then all of a sudden there's an ad on your phone for the thing we were talking about. And you're like, how did that happen? Yeah, it does seem kind of weird. And so, yeah, Edge AI, Edge everything, whatever it's doing, how much of it can it do offline without having to just always be talking to the cloud and sending data to the cloud? I think the more you can do offline at the edge, the better. And if you're a company that though makes a bunch of connected products deployed everywhere, I get the notion of I want some kind of cloud or big data center where I'm monitoring my fleet of things, but I think the monitoring has to be minimal, and not transactional. Keep it local if you can.
yeah, our products are focused on two things. How do we make it cheap enough? Because also ultimately, if your product is smart and is $2 versus $10, you're gonna sell a lot more of them. And how do we make it low power? In many of our applications, you do care about battery life and how to make it low power. So low power and how to have more memory in it. And in order to, I call it the cut between edge and cloud, right? How do you have enough memory? And that's what we're trying to solve for. And it's not going to be one product. It's going to be product family, right? If you're making coffee, it's limited vocabulary versus if it's Alexa or whatever, the next Alexa, and you need to know the whole, dictionary, right? Of words. So it does matter, the range of memory that's needed. And we want to tailor our solutions to being cost effective and serve the right market and the right application. So,
yeah, that's a good point. People like talking about different types of edge. There's microcontroller edge or endpoint. There's something that looks like a ruggedized little PC edge thing that could be in a factory, or it could be kind of like a gateway or something in a home, even, which all of a sudden has a lot more compute power and memory, right, to do things, so that you're not always like the Alexa. I'm having to call the cloud or Siri because that vocabulary is so big. I need to talk to a bunch of servers to get you the answer versus what I can do offline. That being said, hasn't the world changed a lot just recently? I mean, Tom, I downloaded everybody has been geeking out around DeepSeek, and I downloaded the other day Meta's Llama 3.2 with like 3 billion parameters on my laptop, using Olama or Hugging Face, and from the command line, I'm asking questions like I'm in ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. And so the fact that I can do that means there's a certain class of edge devices that are bigger than a microcontroller, but smaller than a cloud, that could do a lot of stuff locally, which is interesting.
Yep, that's true.
I think one of the big things here is, I don't want to go too much into it because it's quite political, but if you look at the geopolitical influence on this, 50 years ago, if you said certain words on a BT landline in the UK, it would automatically be triggered, right? And, the problem that governments may have with Edge AI is if that it's on the device, and if it's not going up to the cloud, then why are they building all these data centers, and how can they send us the ads, and how can they necessarily monitor what we're doing or potential issues that we're having, right? Rob, you came from obviously the Windows Phone background, right? You cannot battery pull any mobile phone right now, right? And there's a reason you cannot battery pull that phone, right?
That sounds like a conspiracy theory here. Are you telling me that the reason I can't pull out a battery anymore is because the government said you can't do it because we want to keep tracking you and listening?
Well, I didn't say anything. That's what you inferred, Rob.
Did you just have a talk with Snowden the other day? Is that what's going on?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Snowden, right? But he said some good stuff. My point is on Edge AI. I think it's fantastic, and but there is that potential conflict there. But I guess the ultimate question is, will it always play a supporting role to the cloud and actually just seen as this kind of side technology, or will it stand in its own right and be adopted in the mainstream? And I guess that's the kind of killer question, right?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely, we're betting on it becoming its own thing. And like I said, I think I've given you enough applications where it's a must-have. And, there will continue to be more use cases. You want to be free from restrictions of internet connections. You want higher level of privacy and security. So I'm a big believer that there's a lot more to come with respect to Edge AI. So
absolutely, and maybe as consumers get more informed, this whole back to the education thing. It might start small, but you might start having a class of consumers buying Edge products that say, I don't want it to have to talk to Big Brother in the cloud. I want to buy a product that's self-contained if possible, or minimal. I'm phoning home every once in a while, that kind of thing. Because a lot of people think of that as a risk. It's not just people wearing tinfoil hats,
like me at home.
Like you at home, you got your tinfoil hat on at home, and you're like, I think it'll take a while though, because as we all know, consumers are not thinking about security typically. They're just saying, I want a problem solved. I'm going to buy this product to solve a problem and give me a solution, and I want it to be easy to use. And you, builder of the product, needed to have already thought of all the other security implications in advance. That's assuming a lot, and the industry has let down the customer many times.
It's going to take time. And why? Because I still believe it's missing an ecosystem of products, with AI acceleration, with tools that support the development, right? And what we're trying to do is create that for the customers, right? We want the average user to be able to do it by themselves. So in some cases, first, I would say always pick the right software, right? Some people have their own models. Some people need to develop their own models. So we're trying to come up with ways to say, okay, BYOM, bring your own model, or build your own model. Which one do you want? And we can also offer services to help people with that. There will be companies that are doing that. Security, do you need it? Yes or no? What do you do? Do you have the right hardware? Are you ordering the right part or not? And, we're trying to enable customers to be able to make those choices in order to really help this revolution and the growth of this and expansion of it. And I still think that's what the next 5 to 10 years are going to be about. So,
yeah, I agree.
I love that. Bring your own model. I love that. That's fantastic, right?
Yeah, I started with BYOB in college, right? Bring your own beer, and then now it's BYOM. So.
Yeah, excellent. So, couple of kind of reflections then on today's conversation. So, I guess both of you, maybe starting with you, Rob, and then over to you, Sam. What is the biggest opportunity then for an AI-driven smart home in the near future? Is it the convenience that Sam mentioned, or do you see it as something else, Rob?
I think it's probably always going to be convenience primarily. Whatever it is. As our homes get more connected, and the reality of the smart home, sadly, for the most part, it's always a retrofit. It's after the fact. It's not like we're seeing lots of homes and apartments being built from the get-go designed for smart AI type stuff. It's always we're having to buy it and retrofit, and is my home a good fit for this? In the olden days, a small group of people who were total geeks would wire their home with Cat 5 Ethernet, and they thought that was a big deal. And I can plug in every wall. And then Wi-Fi became popular. And then you have routers and gateways and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of people just say, most people get connected to the internet because they want to do stuff like this. And so the whole notion, you know, the secret smart thing that's happening in homes without people overtly going to the store to buy a smart home product is smart TVs. That just kind of creeped in without people realizing it. All the television sets are smart TVs. They have apps built into you didn't have to have an external computer or edge device or something like that. And so all those apps in the TV are using that same, you know, pipeline to get out to the internet to do things. And so, you know, a lot of it's convenience, is things you want. It just keeps growing for sure.
Yeah. I agree with Rob. It's all about convenience. It's about, I mean, you can still have a home that doesn't have anything smart in it, or you could have a home that has lots of things smarts in it. You know, we can even take Rob's Nest that he started with, and there will be the next Nest where, you know, when you leave home, it just let the house cool down, and about 30 minutes before Rob comes back home, it warms it up for him automatically, and he's ready, and it's convenient. And, you know, there's, you know, it's just going to continue to be more conveniences, more ease of use, easier life, better life, tailored toward that, and obviously toward more security. So I think this is just going to evolve in time.
Yeah, you know what, I agree. I think, you know, to challenge that somewhat, I think there are also limits to this as well. Like, do you guys remember the Amazon buttons that you could buy?
Yes.
And you could plug them on your wall, and when you needed more washing powder, you press the button. But I don't think they sell those anymore, right? Because it was just a bit overkill, wasn't it, right? Because you could just go into your app and do it.
It's like you just drove a stake in my heart, Tom. So when I was at Hitachi, the person, the product manager sitting next to me in office was Janesh Maurya. So he was one of the people who actually pushed Amazon to actually build the smart button thing. And
okay.
But you know what? That was a clever early days IoT idea to solve a problem. And how clever was it? We'll stick with our laundry. Remember that you could get a button to order more laundry detergent, and then you would just stick it to your washer or dryer and push it. But the cool thing about it is when you were on the Amazon website, you actually configured your Wi-Fi information there, and they flashed the device and then shipped it to you. So it was already ready to go for your network. So I thought it was pretty clever, solved the problem. It seemed pretty cool for a while. You got to try something, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say more smarter buttons are coming. So, you know, that was only 5 years ago. And I think the new products will probably be smarter. I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to need to be smarter. Because 5 years ago, you had 5-year-olds hitting the button 100 times, right?
What do I do with all this detergent?
Yeah. It's funny how the whole theme of this has been around Sam's dryer, right?
I keep trying to move away from that, and Rob keeps coming back to the dryer. But yeah. Hey, Rob, we just don't want you to go, 3-4 times to check on your clothes to make sure they're dry. We want to make sure when you go, it's done. All right.
Yes.
And also you have a Wi-Fi button that sends a ting to your phone and says, ting, okay, now they're dry. Just go get them. That's what we're trying to do. That's the convenience.
Maybe the new smart button to order detergent has Edge AI in it, and it notices the anomaly that, wow, the kids beat it 100 times. That doesn't seem normal to me based on and so that's an anomaly, and therefore I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's your Edge AI in a button.
I need to order a button to order more programmable buttons as well, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's just essential. Biggest challenge that needs to be addressed with smart homes, Edge AI adoption. Sam, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, for me, it's all about the ecosystem, right? The ecosystem it's going to make it easier for developers to be able to implement the solutions, to figure out what models to use, etc. And that's, to me, will continue to be, I call it the showstopper or the hinder, because, our customers don't have data scientists. They don't have PhDs to do model development and optimization. So we have some solutions. We have what we call Deep Craft Studio that can do that. But I still think we have ways to go in the next, 2-3 years to enable this. So.
Yeah. Models aren't just falling off of trees, are they? That's tough stuff. But it is getting better. It's getting easier to do this AI modeling stuff, whether it's big, large language models getting smaller or good old fashioned, just different types of machine learning, that actually, kind of narrow AI, right? For the particular use case, that's getting a lot easier. My perspective, since I've been in this Microsoft world forever, and I'm a developer in that life, building so many products there, I use something called ML.net. And it runs in Visual Studio, and it lets me just follow a wizard to say, what kind of ML do I want to do? And, here's my data set. It's a CSV file or a table in the database. And then there's this cool thing called AutoML, which will interrogate it and come up with the best R² value and say, I'm going to go with that, and so things are getting easier. Tooling is getting better. Like what Sam said, in the past, I used to have lots of PhD data scientists to figure that stuff out, and we're doing Python all day. And so it is getting easier, for sure. And so, the future looks bright.
Excellent. Guys, thank you so much for this. As usual, as part of the show, we asked some quick fire questions, a bit light-hearted to end the show today. I think it's been really exciting and interesting to hear both your thoughts on it. But I've got some quick questions that I want to shoot out to both of you. Sam, what's the one smart home device that you can't live without?
For me, it's a secure camera. For Rob, I'm going to answer for him. It's the dryer, obviously.
And mine's a smart button. So
yeah. I still have my Mets thermostat. It's still going. It still seems cool. It has a good user interface. It's cool. I like it.
Rob, how about this one for you? What tech do you want to see the back of in 2025? You don't want to hear about it anymore and people bleating on about it. What would that be?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I'm already getting tired of, generative AI a little bit. I am tired of everyone saying, the average person now, when they say AI, what they really mean or what they're thinking is generative AI. And they don't realize that generative is just one piece of this big umbrella. And so that does annoy me. But that's just because we know too much.
I think you just need to rebrand AI, right? Because it's just not going to work. It's a bit like the Hoover and the vacuum cleaner, right?
Sure. It's the Kleenex of.
Yeah, I think people just don't understand what edge AI is and means, the majority of the people. So they just club it all in AI and, it's too complicated. And they don't, it just shuts them down right there. So,
Sam, what's your biggest misconception about edge AI that people hold?
Misconception. I think just people really don't understand it. They don't know the difference between cloud, between AI, edge AI, generative AI, and like I said, I just said it. They just get confused and they could get overwhelmed, and that could delay the implementations of more smarter things. So that's my thought.
Guys, look, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great. It's been really, really interesting. I've really enjoyed it, actually. It's been good to moderate this and do an average job, as I have done today. I will get better, and I will use Gen AI to help me get better at that, because, of course, that's the only AI there is in the world, right, as everyone knows.
Oh, it's all there is. Yeah.
Call to action on socials. Where can people find out more about both of you guys? On LinkedIn, social media, or?
Yeah, LinkedIn, type Sam Geha, and I think there's only one. And so you can find me.
Nice. And how about you, Rob?
LinkedIn, just Rob Tiffany, robtiffany.com, my blog. I know, still blogging? What? Blue Sky, Twitter, yada, yada,
Nice.
all the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Same name.
And hanging out next to the dryer, of course.
Of course. Always. Yeah.
Just one of them. Guys, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Same here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Good to meet you, Rob.
Yeah, great meeting you, Sam.
Thanks.